Well, let's go back to Van Horn, Texas, and you see there the Blue Origin rocket known as New Shepard. This is the first human test flight for Blue Origin, and on board, billionaire Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, as we are tracking this huge flight for you today. Let's bring in back Laura McQuillan, as well as our senior science reporter, Nicole Maltolato. You know, Laura, I think it's worthwhile, as we're now about 2 minutes away from liftoff, walk us through what we're going to see during this test flight.
Right, so this rocket, the New Shepard, and its capsule on top, it actually fits 6 people, but there are 4 on board today, including Jeff Bezos, his brother, an 82-year-old aviation pioneer, Mary Wallace Funk, known as Wally Funk, and an 18-year-old as well. And there's a really interesting story I will get back to, Michael, but they're going to be taking off shortly, heading 3 times the speed of sound as they rocket towards the edge of space. Then the rocket itself is going to separate from the capsule. The rocket will return to Earth for an upright landing, so the way it looks right now. But the capsule will stay up there, and they will have about 3 to 4 minutes of weightlessness. They're going to be able to look out these huge windows on it, gaze back towards Earth, before the capsule parachutes back down into the desert just about 10 minutes after liftoff. So it is a quick journey. Worth noting as well that that rocket and its booster are reusable, so will be reused in future flights, we assume.
Now, Nicole, we're about a minute away from liftoff now. Anything you want to note as to what we're seeing at this moment in time?
Well, we've got the rollback from the arm that's holding up, supporting the rocket and New Shepard. And basically, they're just preparing. It is a minute away from a launch, and this will make history. As I mentioned, today is the anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. So this is pretty significant. And we're just seconds away now from this historic flight.
So 52 years after the Apollo mission landed on the moon, we're now watching Jeff Bezos take part in this first human test flight from Blue Origin, his private space company, as private firms have now essentially stepped in where government agencies were. We're now, as you can see, T-minus 15 seconds to the launch. I believe we're getting some audio now from Van Horn, Texas. So let's take a listen and take a look at the site now taking place.
5, 4, command engine start, 2, 1.
So we're now approaching 50 seconds since liftoff. Still exciting to hear that sound, Nicole.
Yeah, I've got goosebumps here. I wish I were on that.
Listen, you say you wish you were on it, and this is, though, a test flight still. It's the first human flight for Blue Origin here. And it's been said that, no space travel is without risk. What type of risks are involved in today's test flight?
Well, ultimately, there are always risks with space flight. The fact is, even with space tourism and these launches, there will likely be loss of life, and we have to face that as a reality. It is very dangerous. You have propellant that is loaded on there. It's combustible. It's a rocket. Of course, you have the issue of being afraid that it will explode. So far, thank goodness, things are going really well. But also, when it comes to the to the capsule, upon return, you want to make sure that all those parachutes deploy and that it is ultimately a safe landing. And that's basically what they're the risks that they're looking at today. But they all know that. They know that there is risk involved, and they're willing to do it.
Mm-hmm. Laura, what's interesting about this test flight, because you and I were covering the earlier one with Virgin Galactic along with Richard Branson a few days back, and that was about a 90-minute mission beginning to end, and this one's a much shorter mission, 11 minutes. Why so much shorter this time around?
Yeah, and you'll recall that Richard Branson's rocket plane looked a lot different as well. It looked like a plane between two other planes, so it had to, you know, taxi on the runway, take off, build up that altitude, get up into the sky, and then it let loose of the actual rocket plane itself off the mothership, and then it gained further altitude before it did that, you know, suborbital floating for them. It is a longer trip aboard the Branson plane, the Virgin Galactic rocket plane, I should say, planned to be that way, though they did have kind of the same amount of time of weightlessness, just 3 or 4 minutes once they got up there, so it was just a short time. Then it had to glide back down to Earth, whereas this one, it's going to be a capsule parachuting back down. So it does look a lot different as well as that time taken. When we were covering that launch about 9 days ago now, it felt like it was a really long time, but when we look at how long they've been up now, more than 3 minutes, well, they're a good chunk of the way into the journey, about a quarter of the way in so far.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are 4 civilians. Oh, sorry. Oh, that's actually, I thought that was you, Nicole. It's actually the audio feed that we're getting from Van Horn, Texas. But listen, as we say, there are 4 crew members this time around, all essentially civilian crew members. We have Jeff Bezos, his brother Mark. We have Oliver Damon from the Netherlands, only 18 years old. We also have Wally Funk, who was a female astronaut with NASA back in the 1960s. Nicole, talk to us about the significance of the crew and the fact that they are civilians.
Yeah, I mean, this is the new space race. You know, it's no longer government. You've got private companies like Blue Origin, SpaceX, and Virgin Galactic, all on the, you know, on the map here. And this is the thing. I mean, yes, it is a flight for the rich. That's the truth, right? I mean, if it's going to be you and I don't think we're going to be going up there anytime soon. But it is important to note that. I mean, and we have history in the making. This you know, Oliver Damon, he's the youngest. He'll be the youngest to fly in space. And then you have Wally Funk, she'll be the oldest at 82. And this is a really important note in space flight history. Basically, the change.
Can I jump in for 1 second? Can I jump in 1 second? Nicole, yeah. Take a look at your screen right now, because it looks like have they deployed a parachute already, or is this just the rocket at a distance?
No, I think it is the rocket at a distance. I mean, they still have to get into their, you know, I think it is. It looks like it. I was trying to keep an eye on that too.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think you're right. I think with greater clarity now, I think that is the rocket and not the deployment here. But you were talking a bit about, and I'm sorry to have interrupted you, about Wally Funk.
No. Well, yes. I mean, this is going to be history. She was part of the Mercury 13, where they were looking at, you know, the first astronauts to go into space were part of Mercury 7, and that was all of the men. Whereas they did train and they did test women, and that was part of the Mercury 13. And she blew these astronauts out of the water, you know, including the men, but she never got to go to space. So this is amazing for her. Sorry, I'm just listening to the audio too.
Let's take a listen to what's being said right now.
Astronaut Oliver.
Oh, that's right now. It's really interesting. This is the sound from inside the capsule.
So what we're seeing now.
Oliver, status perfect.
Copy,
the first
astronaut
stage
Wally.
is coming.
Wally. Blue control, Wally is in seat.
Copy, astronaut demo.
Astronaut demo, in my seat.
Copy, astronaut Bezos.
And you are watching CBC News Network. And if you're wondering what's happening right now and just joining us, this is the launch of the Blue Origin rocket, New Shepard, the first human flight for Blue Origin, aboard billionaire Jeff Bezos, as well as his brother, 18-year-old Oliver Damon from the Netherlands, as well as Wally Funk, 82 years old, formerly a NASA astronaut, taking part in this flight. And you are joining Michael Serapio. I'm here with Laura McQuillan, as well as our senior science reporter, Nicole Maltolato. Nicole, I'm loving the sounds of woohoo and enthusiasm that we're hearing from the capsule right now as it continues to gain altitude here.
That would be me. That would absolutely be me. Now what we're seeing is, you know, the rocket coming back, the first stage landing, and here we go.
Let's go to the moon. Who wants to go to the moon
And just to clarify, there is the booster rocket landing, and this seems to be a hallmark, a new hallmark of this new age of the space race. Talk to us about that, Nicole.
Yeah, I mean, this is what, I mean, as much as we say it is for the rich, the idea is to make space more affordable by having these first stages, these boosters coming back, just like SpaceX has done. And in fact, Bezos was looking at this in 2000, in the year 2000, before SpaceX was founded in 2002. And this is the idea of making it reusable rockets reduces the cost. And now we have the capsule. It's coming back down to Earth.
And Laura, you were talking about this phase of the mission as well, the capsule returning. Walk us through the expectation here.
Yeah, so as you can see, this was a really quick turnaround. The opportunity to, just have a few minutes of weightlessness, float around, and then land back down. And so when they're landing, they are using parachutes, which will help slow them down, landing in the desert. There you see the deployment right now. So that will be slowing them down over the next few minutes. Now, this is only meant to take about 11 minutes. Here we are at 8.5. So perhaps even faster than we thought this was going to be. Very short space flight as they make their way back down to Earth. A pretty incredible opportunity, especially when we're talking about Wally Funk and going into space, being denied that opportunity decades ago, and then to finally get that today. So I guess once they land back in the desert, there'll be some checks, they'll pop out, and hopefully we'll be able to hear from them as well, a bit more than those woohoos that we were hearing from the capsule a moment ago.
As we watch this, and this is a moment of great excitement, certainly for those on board, for those who are watching right now, but we have to note the fact as well that there's been much criticism about this. As you say, we're about 9 minutes now into a mission that's expected to only last 11 minutes. Compare that against the millions of dollars spent on this, as well as the fuel that was burned in order to make this happen. Nicole, talk to us about some of the criticism that we're hearing regarding this billionaire flight to space.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is frivolous. Let's be honest. I mean, there was no science involved in this. It's a bit frivolous, but in terms of the rocket itself, it has two fuels, like basically combustion, so liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, and that actually produces water vapor. So it's not as bad as some of the other things that we're putting into the atmosphere. There's black soot that's involved in that, so it's relatively clean, but relatively for just a jaunt to 3 to 4 minutes in space, that's the criticism. And Bezos said yesterday on CNN, he said, the criticisms are valid.
Mm-hmm. Although there's also an argument, I guess, and we heard it from Bezos himself, that the more you get individuals willing to pay the high cost of going to space, the more the research itself, the cost of that being offset in the future.
Oh, there we go. They landed. That's perfect. Yeah, definitely. That is definitely part of it.
Let's take a listen to what's now being said.
Welcome back to Earth, First Step. Congratulations to all of you.